270 or
Hello, Zima.
73 FM. Welcome to my crib. Just kidding, peeps. This is my crib. Come on in. Gaming HQ. Thanks to Charcom Smart Home Broadband. My voice here, I'm kicking butt all over the globe. Wow, Apple TV got the ladies jumping. Just some of my crew taking care of business, tweeting, blogging, keeping connected, keeping networking social. You guys are gonna love this.
Right, good afternoon. It's 2 minutes gone after 2 o'clock Central African time. Welcome to the 1873 FM. The name is Wildfire DJ. And welcome to this your broadcast on Monday, joined by Mr. Mutumwa Mawere and Mr. M. Good afternoon. Hello, Mr. M. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. Seem not to be able to pick up your audio. On
Hello.
your side. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello.
Oh yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Tinashe is dropped from the show. He's back here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is my picture coming up all right, or I should adjust?
No, yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
We can also see Malema in the background.
Oh, there's Malema.
Malema is looking for you. So good afternoon, Mr. Jonasi.
Hey, afternoon, sir. How are you?
Excellent. We are talking about the media and perception versus reality. And who are you? Because there are many people who have now given you labels. So we are also joined by Wellington Mzengeza and Janet Madaka. They are also with us.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, you mean it, introducing myself?
Yeah, who are you? Because we see a lot of descriptions.
Okay. First, I'm someone who speaks my mind and someone who speaks the truth. As you know, that in Zimbabwe, the truth must be written ZANU-PF, or the truth must be written MDC. If you just speak your own truth, people would do deliberately. There's a lot of, background noise.
Please, if you are on the show, make sure that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Tinashe Jonasi is someone who speaks his mind and who upholds his conscience. Who refuse to speak the ZANU-PF language and the MDC language. So
right.
a Zimbabwean is understood when you speak the ZANU-PF language or the MDC language. If you don't speak the Chamisa language, you are a ZANU-PF project. Because the Chamisa is good in brainwashing Zimbabweans to think that anyone who is not in his house it's a ZANU-PF project. So I give respect to Chamisa for brainwashing Zimbabweans.
All right. Before we talk about brains and washing of brains, do you respect other people's right to describe you as a project?
I respect them because if you are not with Chamisa, you must be a project, and then they don't call anyone a MDC project. They can only call someone a ZANU-PF project, but we don't have an MDC project now.
But you agree that Zimbabwe is a divided country. There are people in government, in ZANU-PF, who call anyone with a different view a Western project, a puppet, a surrogate.
Yeah, no, we are, as I said, we are divided between ZANU-PF and MDC. There is no one who is called a Zimbabwean. You must fall between you must fall under ZANU-PF or MDC for you to be called a Zimbabwean.
All right. These are people who may be ignorant about the true nature of humanity, that Tinashe cannot be divided into this or that. You are you, wherever you are.
Yes.
Is that correct? That there is a lot of illiteracy around the idea of identity. Who am I?
Because our two major political parties are pushing that identity, that you must either be in either camp. So it's an agenda or a narrative that is pushed by political parties.
Have you ever heard of the word identity politics?
Not really. I've never heard about it.
Okay, Wellington, have you ever heard the term called identity politics?
Yes, identity politics. Yes, I have an idea what it is.
Okay. If you have an idea, tell us. If you don't have an idea, it's still okay to say I don't have an idea.
Well, there's a tendency for people of a particular persuasion. It could be a religion, some cultural background or social background, where they form some kind of political alliance based on that. So they identify themselves and then they identify others. All right. So they give each other identities and then they decide to engage with each other based on those identities or not.
All right. Let's just talk about victimhood. Let's see how it's defined as identity politics, so that we all can. I just googled here. It says identity politics. The identity has been applied retroactively. Politics. Politics in which groups of people having a particular racial, religious, ethnic, social, or cultural identity tend to promote their own specific interests or concerns without regard to the interests or concerns of any larger political group. Do you find that being the case in Zimbabwe today?
I guess that question is for Mr. Jonasi.
Mr. Jonasi, do you find that being common today?
I can say that's the dominant factor in Zimbabwe. That's the cancer actually in our country.
But it's not just a Zimbabwean issue.
But obviously, our concern and the focus must be more of Zimbabwe.
No, it could be all veterans who believe that they played a larger part in liberating the country, and therefore they are superior than others. It could be women who feel they've been oppressed, and they form themselves into a victim club, that we are victims of men, and therefore we are in identity. Either you are a male chauvinist or you are not. So that is there. Then somebody says, Jonas, are right, Mr. Laxon, do you see Mr. Jonas and you're talking to him? Do you think if you're a doctor, you pass him as normal? Because there's somebody called Fred Dindana who genuinely believes that Mr. Jonas is not mentally fit to be on this show.
Good day, Mr. No, let me ask him. What is his standard measure of normalcy?
They are saying that Jonas is mentally apa mawere washaya. Putting Jonas as your panelist, you idiot mawere. The guy is delusional. He's better with Gambako, try music with Van Gogh. Jonas na madungwe same. Sekuru gudo ndipo kukubatsira nematambudziko echivanhu. And why was Jonasi insulting Julius Malema? What was the reason? Agrippa Chinara. So these are some of the comments. I think he's a mentally patient. Okay, I was asking Mr. Why do you think Mr. Jonasi, the one you see now, is mentally okay? Just your feeling.
Good day, Mr. Mawere. Good day, Mr. Jonasi. Good day, everyone. Well, my own opinion, I want to believe he's all right. And there are things that we can buy from him. The changing of attitude. You see, people had looked at Mr. Jonasi from the past scripts when he was totally against the authorities in Zimbabwe. But now the fact that everyone believes that if you are not ZANU-PF, you should have that hate speech. But where they are now confused, you know, I'm going to give you a different view of myself or the way I see Mr. Jonasi. I would reference him to the likes of Paul in the Bible. Hello?
Hello, no, yeah, we're hearing you.
Right. The man, he had a mission. Initially, he had his own mission, but when he changed, many people didn't believe that the man had changed. Why so? I actually don't know Mr. Jonasi, and I don't.
Okay, it looks like a connection problem there. Okay, Mr. Jonasi, do you hear that?
Yeah, I'm listening to him. I'm hearing him.
Right. Wildfire, what is your take?
Yes, I'm here.
On these sentiments that are used to describe another human being like you? And he's not dead, he's alive. And these are sentiments that are expressed by other human beings. What is your take on that?
For me, I'm not for anyone judging anybody because of what they say or do. If we are not an expert or a qualified somebody to determine whether somebody is mentally stable or not, what's the point of judging somebody without even having that person evaluated that they're not mentally stable? So allow everybody to express themselves the way they want to. As much as Mr. Jonasi, I mean, there's a whole lot of concerns that people have saying, Jonasi, one day you wake up, you are anti-ZANU-PF, the next day you are pro-ZANU-PF, you are anti-MDC, the next day you are MDC. People are confused. They are saying that you are sort of trying to, what's the word? Distract people from the real issues. They're saying that you are an agent. So where does Mr. Jonasi stand on the Zimbabwean issue? I think that is the biggest question. People are confused whether you are for rebuilding in Zimbabwe or you are just there to confuse the people.
All right. So we have that. And Wellington, do you want to add something before we ask Janet and Mr. Jonasi to add more?
Yes, I think as you mentioned earlier on the issue of identity politics, I think one is to identify themselves. they have to first have an interest, like we discussed earlier on in the show earlier on, that when one has an interest, then they have a cause. But then they need to identify with that cause and that interest. So I think it's important that Mr. Jonas clarifies for us what his issue is and what he identifies with. That way, whatever he identifies with, it's his choice to be consistent or not. But he must have a voice where he can then be heard. We need to know who he is and what the man stands for, because it's what people are interested in, the man and his cause.
And Janet, any word? Is Janet with us? Okay, she's the only female lest to be accused of anti-women, and that we have taken sides. We become an identity of male panel only. There is a woman who has chosen to hide herself from the public glare, but Mr. Jonasi has said that there is a human trait of labeling others and making them part of something, part of a project, part of another thing, another cause. And then if there is that feeling, I think Janet was failing to unmute. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mr. Jonasi. It's my first time sharing a platform with you. I've watched...
Your volume is low.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mr. Jonasi. It's my first time sharing a platform with you. I'm actually here both.
We can hardly hear Janet.
Yeah.
We can hardly hear Janet. I need to sort out your audio.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're a bit better now.
Oh, okay. Mr. Jonasi, this is my first time sharing a platform with you.
Sorry, Mr. Mawere.
That audio is too bad. That audio is too bad. It's not even going through our outputs.
No, it's okay. I'm going to change my medium of communication.
So maybe let's proceed with others until she sorts out audio. Then yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So there is a trait. It's not a Zimbabwean trait. It's a human trait that if you express a different view from what others think, then it's easier to label you. Either you are the favorite wife, or you are the favorite daughter, or the favorite son, or you are taking sides. But tolerance is a difficult thing. Mr. Jonas, do you find it difficult, or I think through your own experience, that people have difficulty in tolerating differences?
Okay, maybe I think this might be the perfect opportunity for me to answer earlier questions put forward to me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The first question I think was about me identifying myself to have a certain position, and then that will motivate me to have a cause, and people would understand my voice if I assume a certain position. I was against ZANU-PF, and now I am like pro ZANU-PF. I think that are some of the observations of some citizens from Zimbabwe, obviously. Let me, my first port of call was I was the anti-government, I was anti-ZANU-PF, and I was believing that we need to rise as a nation, whether mass uprising or use of violent, either violent uprising using weapons. Secondly, probably mass uprising, peaceful, and take out the government. That was my only belief and my only solutions to the problem in Zimbabwe. I wanted ZANU-PF to be taken out through violently. That was my most preferred strategy. Then secondly, peacefully, but through mass uprising. Those were my only strategies I thought they work. Okay, what happened then? I started the peaceful mass uprising. I wanted to lead it. I went to Zimbabwe to say to Zimbabweans, let's go to the and surround the Munomutapa building until the president and the vice president, we arrested them through what we call citizens arrest. And I did that, and I did it alone. All those people who promised to accompany me, they chickened out at the 11th hour. I was arrested alone. I went to prison. It was my mother. It was my lawyers. No one came. Whether my relatives, my friends, nobody. And you come out of prison, obviously you must get some support from your supporters, from everyone. And then I went through a lot even after prison, and I then realized that it's almost like you are alone when you are actually fighting ZANU-PF. Zimbabweans, when it comes to reality, that let's do this together, they chicken out. They do the noise on social media, on WhatsApp groups, on Twitter, on Facebook. Everyone doesn't want ZANU-PF. Everyone wants to remove ZANU-PF today. But if you go on the ground, the real streets, you are almost alone. And then number two, I started looking at other things. Like, for example, right now, Jacob Ngarivume is arrested in prison. You never see it go funding or whatever way that the Zimbabweans would do to help his family, his kids. Let's assume he's renting, he's paying rent. People are not paying for his rent. People are they're not concerned about his wife. They're not concerned about anything. They will just post on Facebook and Twitter, free Jacob Ngarivume, free Hopewell. Beyond that, there's nothing. So another reality is that people love Nelson Chamisa, who is not a revolutionary, who would actually hide behind a revolution and expect these people to be arrested, and he does nothing. I mean, so the reality is that Zimbabweans are not really, they are not ready to remove ZANU-PF. That is the reality. Whoever is instigating people to be on the streets, whoever is doing anything, that person is a sellout. You want someone to be arrested or someone to be beaten, and while this is safe. So now I know that the noise on social media, it's a fake noise. It's done by people who even use ghost accounts. If you go on Facebook and you see how people are angry with ZANU-PF, most of those people, they are even using fake ghost accounts. So Zimbabweans, if the truth is on left, Zimbabweans, they turn the right. Zimbabweans are the most dishonest people you can come across in the world. Zimbabweans are, I don't know how I can describe them, but they don't want the reality. They don't want the reality. So it's now the choice. It's every citizen's choice whether to follow reality or the fantasy world that is perpetuated by Chamisa. Chamisa is creating a fantasy world that the country will never work until EG and ZANU-PF are removed. And then people, they go to Chamisa, they are behind him, they support him, and Chamisa is not telling Zimbabweans how is he going to remove EG and ZANU-PF. He starts complaining the elections were rigged, the army are in the streets, the police are brutal. As if when Chamisa became opposition in Zimbabwe, he never knew that reality. The role of opposition is to study the ruling party, and then if you are countering them, counter them on who they are in reality. Don't describe them and use their description as a strategy to complain. So the problem in Zimbabwe is not the opposition leaders, is not the ruling party. The problem in Zimbabwe is the citizens who are confused, who doesn't want the reality, who want to sing and complain on social media. The truth now, as it stands, Zimbabweans are not going to support any political party except MDC and ZANU-PF. That's the reality. Any opposition leader who doesn't want to deal with that opposition leader is also in fantasy land. We will never build Zimbabwe on a fantasy planet. We can only build Zimbabwe basing and informed and motivated with reality. The reality is Zimbabweans, they've got binary thinking. They only think in two ways: the ZANU-PF way or the MDC way. That's how Zimbabweans think. They are not independent in thinking. So a Zimbabwean you meet is a Chamisa worshipper or a ZANU-PF worshipper. Nothing else. If you think the third way or independent, you are considered insane, you are not normal. You need a psychiatrist, because it's not allowed in Zimbabwe to have a third narrative, a fourth narrative. It's not allowed. Sing Chamisa Chete Chete or Idipe, then you are normal. So I'm now answering on my position. I can't continue to insult ED. I can't continue to insult ZANU-PF. Insulting ZANU-PF is not a strategy. So opposition political parties like MDC, it's a gathering of citizens who help each other to be angry at ZANU-PF, to be angry at ED, to insult ZANU-PF, to insult ED for 20 years now. So surely can we continue for the next 100 years insulting ZANU-PF? Will that bring medication in hospitals? Will that reduce or improve the rate of our currency? So I think independently. ZANU-PF must go, ED must go, or that will never make ED disappear or ZANU-PF disappear into thin air. So I refuse to be a fool. If majority of people are fools, it doesn't mean that they are correct. Probably people might think I'm psychiatric, while maybe I'm one of the few Zimbabweans who are normal, because the majority are singing Chamisa ED must go, ZANU-PF must go. How? They can't answer. No one can answer how ED must go and how ZANU-PF must go. It's ED must go. Every day. To me, that's stupidity. That's insanity. So I refuse to be abnormal. Now, after realizing that the ED must go, what the citizens who says ED must go, they say that on social media. Especially people in South Africa, UK and US, when data is cheap, they are abusing the privilege of having cheap data. So I'm now engaging ZANU-PF. I am now talking reconciliatory stance. I want Zimbabweans to come together and work together, because anyone who says ZANU-PF must go or ED must go, that person to me is a witch. Is a witch who can witch during the day, because you are lying to people. Why must ED go and why must ZANU-PF go? Tell people how. It's not enough to say ZANU-PF must go, ED must go, without any strategy to remove them. I mean, so I refuse to be part of that group. And those who say they support me, watching my videos on social media is not supporting me. I mean, some people are saying, Tinashe, you are letting us down. Why are you now like you are supporting ED? Every Zimbabwean is a ZANU-PF project. Nelson Chamisa is a ZANU-PF project. Because if Chamisa is saying he doesn't like ED, the same Chamisa is desperate to have a dialogue with ED. The same Chamisa wants to meet ED, and people are not complaining about that. They don't see him as a ZANU-PF project, but Chamisa wants to meet ED. So, in other words, Chamisa wants to engage with the ED. If Tinashe engages with the ED, Tinashe is a ZANU-PF project. But Chamisa is allowed to cry every day that I want to have a dialogue with the ED. And the Zimbabweans are not worried about that. So let's assume Chamisa meets up with the ED and they strike a deal. Will Chamisa insult ED? After that, will Chamisa sing the song ED must go? After meeting with ED and they shake hands and they agree to build the country. Obviously, he won't. So the citizens of Zimbabwe, they want to be mentally examined because they believe in the world of fantasy that Chamisa is going to remove ED when Chamisa wants to meet ED. If Medium Toko ZANU-PF can meet up with ED, is a ZANU-PF project. If Tinashe can engage with ED, is a ZANU-PF project. But Chamisa is desperate to engage with ED, and it's not a ZANU-PF project. So, citizens of Zimbabwe, they need the psychiatric evaluation. Okay, I'm done with that. And then on the issue of saying, I can't remember what was the other question, but Zimbabwe is not going to improve if we deal with the real Zimbabwe. Okay, yeah. The other thing was the why insulting Julius Malema. Malema is nobody. Malema is nothing. But the citizens of Zimbabwe who have been brainwashed by Nelson Chamisa to believe that Chamisa is going to remove ED and ZANU-PF. Now, Zimbabweans now have realized that Chamisa is a coward. Chamisa will not remove ED and ZANU-PF. Chamisa will never remove a ZANU-PF councillor. A ward councillor. Chamisa will never remove that word councillor. So if you talk about ED and ZANU-PF, you are talking about something out of the world. Nelson Chamisa won't remove a councillor of ZANU-PF. That's the reality. So when Julius Malema is speaking of Zimbabwe and calling and insulting ED, the same desperate Zimbabweans who want ZANU-PF to go and they don't know how, and they believe Nelson Chamisa is going to remove ZANU-PF, but they now know he won't. They are now thinking that Julius Malema is going to remove ED. And they don't know how. So Julius Malema is now being believed that he's going to remove ZANU-PF on behalf of Zimbabwe, which is nonsensical. Julius Malema can't be allowed to dominate issues of Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans, we are desperate for foreign help, which is Julius Malema. Malema who is failing to remove ANC, but we believe he's going to remove ZANU-PF. We are desperate for SADC to remove ZANU-PF. We are desperate for AU to remove ZANU-PF. US government must remove ZANU-PF. United Nations must remove ZANU-PF. Simbaki Kanza and Zimai.com will remove ZANU-PF. Such desperation is out of this world. No one is going to remove ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is in power, is in control of Zimbabwe. The army, the police, the intelligence services, the prisons are saluting ED. That's the reality today on a Monday. So we are waiting for ED to go and ZANU-PF to go, and then Zimbabwe is going to function. While we don't know how are they going to disappear into thin air. My sanity is telling me that we need to hold hands now, because we can't remove ZANU-PF. That's the reality. We are not going to remove ZANU-PF now. as we are behind Nelson Chamisa and we know he's a coward, he must be a woman. The reality, we want to remove ZANU-PF. So we need to come together, hold hands, and make the country work. What is needed now is love, it's unity. Politics is dividing us for so many years, but we can seriously defeat the division and the hatred caused by politics. I swallowed my pride. I apologized to ED, but because we are so divided, if Tinashe apologized to ED, Tinashe is engaging ED, automatically Tinashe is now a ZANU-PF project. Tinashe is an agent. I am ready to engage even with Nelson Chamisa, but you can't engage Chamisa because Chamisa is arrogant. Chamisa has got pride. Chamisa thinks that there's no opposition in Zimbabwe. He is the godfather of opposition politics. He and ED must meet and the author the prosperity trajectory for Zimbabwe. Chamisa thinks he is the password of a prosperity Zimbabwe. He doesn't want to engage anyone. He forgets Zimbabwe is opposition, Zimbabwe is ruling party, Zimbabwe is civic society, Zimbabwe is the business community, Zimbabwe is students, Zimbabwe is the citizens of the country, church leaders. Everyone is a Zimbabwean. But Chamisa thinks he is so special that it's only him and President Mnangagwa who must sit down and write and underwrite the future of Zimbabwe, which is nonsense. So I like Chamisa. I admire him. He's a national asset. He has got wisdom, but his arrogance and pride needs to come down. For the sake of the poor people, for the sake of the country, true leadership is humility. So I don't hate Chamisa. I can meet him anytime. I even apologize to him. But Chamisa must stop being arrogant and must stop to think that is the special one. That is nonsense. There can be a lot of people in his church choir, Chamisa choir, chete choir, singing Chamisa, but that doesn't mean if lost people, lost citizens are following you, that doesn't mean that you are special. I don't like the arrogance in Nelson Chamisa that he wants to hold the country to ransom because he wants ED to hand over power to him. 2 years after elections, we must be discussing about legitimacy. When poor people are dying in Zimbabwe, true leaders must swallow their pride, swallow their personal agenda and pride and desires to become president. Joshua Ngomo swallowed his pride and met Robert Mugabe. When he realized the Ndebele people were under attack, he swallowed his pride, he forgot his political desires to save his people. To me, that's leadership. But Chamisa wanted the whole country to die and suffer until ED hands over president to him. That's nonsense.
All right, so here we are, Mr. Jonasi. You have given your side. Let's now dig deeper. ZANU-PF, is it an animal, an object, or property, or a living human being?
Is the question directed to me, Mr. Mawere?
Yeah. What is ZANU-PF to you?
To me, ZANU-PF is a logo.
Okay. So
it's the citizens who make it a party.
All right. And what is MDC? Whatever, whether it's Alliance or whether it's MDC, what is it?
It's the logo and the name.
And do you feel that there is a confusion around what a party is and what a party is not. Genuine illiteracy around political institutions, parties.
Yes, the confusion is real because people think they define the political party through narratives. Like when you talk about war veterans, when you talk about we freed this country, that's ZANU-PF. When you talk about ED must go and ZANU-PF must go, and the people, I mean, you are talking about the MDC now, and Chamisa is the god that must not be touched. If you criticize anything about Chamisa, you are a ZANU-PF project. You are an opposition of an opposition. So we define political parties in Zimbabwe through narratives.
All right. So when you look at the legacy of Mugabe, the man,
Yes,
maestro, do you think that's where the root cause could be? That he became the symbol of the party, and generally people associated government with him because he stayed too long, associated ZANU-PF with him because that was his home, whereas Mandela remained Nelson Mandela and retired so that the party could have its own identity as a club of members, not as an alter ego of the person.
Is it my question, Mr. Mawere?
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Mugabe's legacy, I would salute him in terms of education, because I was a product of free education. They were calling it social welfare. I was not affording my education, and I was funded by the government. Education and the literacy rate in Zimbabwe, I think it's above 85%. Robert Mugabe, I salute him. Yeah, and many other things. But politically, I fault him because Robert Mugabe was a good leader who wanted to be who was a life president. You know, the moment you are so obsessed with power, you change from being good to bad. Robert Mugabe, no doubt, he had a very high IQ. He was intelligent. He was wise, but his addiction to power created a monster out of a good man who loved Zimbabwe, who loved his country. I mean, he was patriotic, and then everyone who was a threat to his power became a target who was supposed to be abducted, to be killed. So overall, his legacy is then dissolved because he became an evil person. So Robert Mugabe then, yeah, as you say, he became larger than his party. He became larger than the country, so that he won't face any challenge. So Robert Mugabe then he funded the divide and rule. Secondly, political conversations and the political literacy was then banned. We were not allowed to talk. We were not allowed to have information about the political education, political intelligence. What people are studying at University of Zimbabwe currently called Pollard, political administration or whatever. Sorry, I'm saying Pollard. This degree in political science. It's a useless course altogether.
Let's talk about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You believe Mugabe was a leader?
Yes.
Let's start with Mugabe.
Mugabe was a good leader who became.
You don't have to go further. What is a leader to you?
A leader to me is a person who is, number one, who delegates. Number two, a person who consults in crafting a vision for a particular, whether it's a company or it's a country, because he must be more like a facilitator. A leader must not think he's the alpha and omega. A leader must not think on behalf of people, must not strategize on behalf of people, but must be a team player who consults and who is more like a servant, so that the majority of ideas, the majority of the methodology is what then is adopted.
Okay, Wildfire, what is your take? Hello? Wildfire is not there. Janet, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right,
I
now,
have a question for Mr. Jonasi.
Is not a sane person because he sees the problems and is identifying these problems and he speaks to those problems. But many of us are sitting on the terraces and just watching and not speaking up. So let's allow everybody to have their say and voice out their concerns. And from each and every one of us speaking, there is parts that we can pick up and build up from there. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's my take this far.
All right, and then Mr. Ponella wants to join. I'll send him on the link. If you want to join, you can also take the link here. And I was talking about the leadership or leader. Your take on what a leader is and what a leader is not. So maybe that conversation, we have Wellington. What is your take on what a leader is, or whether a leader exists in any event?
Yes. Well, I believe that a leader is a person who has influence over others, which means that he can literally guide a group of people or an organization or a country. They're able to give guidance on things. But one thing is for sure, that they commanded a following or a constituency, people who look up to them as both an influencer and a thought leader. That is what a leader is. But a leader exists because of people. You cannot be a leader without followers or people who subscribe
you belong to the class. You belong to the class of people who think a leader exists.
Hello.
So you belong to a class of people who think a leader exists.
Yes, I believe that a leader actually exists. There is something called a leader or leadership.
And Wildfire?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Now I'm saying is, do you believe a leader exists?
No.
All right. And Laxton, do you believe a leader exists?
Yes, I believe leaders exist, but I want to believe that we expect much from people, forgetting that they are human beings.
Now you are going to we. I'm just saying, as Mr. Chuai, do you believe a leader exists?
Sure, leaders do exist.
All right. And then Janet?
Yes, I do believe that leaders do exist. But there are some people that are quite prepared to.
Yeah. So how many are we here? For a start, how many are we?
We are 6.
6. So how many have said leaders exist by head count?
Well, one is me.
I did.
Okay, so number one.
I'm the other one.
Number two.
Lagson.
Number three. Number three, it's Jonas Tinashe. So
I believe you become a leader by assignment, not because you must be born as a leader.
No, I'm just saying it's about the existence of a leader among men.
Okay. For me, I believe a leader doesn't exist.
All right, so you are now coming to 50-50 now. So we are 50-50. So there are three who are saying a leader does not exist, and three who are saying a leader exists. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I guess so, yes.
That Mnangagwa is a person. He is not a leader. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Is a person and not a leader. Hello?
That's correct. That's correct.
Just hold on. There's a call here. Is that Mr. Smith? How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Excellent.
Yes. Oh, can I make a contribution?
All right. The question of the time of the hour is that does a leader exist? Yes or no?
Indeed, a leader exists.
And your name is?
John Smith.
John Smith, okay. So John Smith says a leader exists. So we're 4 versus 3. So you are now in the majority.
Yes, the fact is each time when we answer, we are looking at Zimbabwe, isn't it? In the case of Zimbabwe. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. No, I'm saying a leader is a human being, and we are not looking at Zimbabwe only.
Or we just generalize.
Yeah. So we are saying a human being need not be Zimbabwean. Hello? It's gone. Yeah. So we have 4 versus 3 so far. So all we are saying out there, do we require a conversation around the idea of a leader?
Yes, I would want it.
All right. Mr. Jonas, do you want to be part of a community where we invest in this idea of what a leader is and what a leader is not? Or whether a leader exists?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I would want to be part of that.
And Chimedza, in Sweden, does a leader exist to you?
Yes, a leader exists to me. Leadership also exists to me.
Number 5 versus 3. Would you want to be part of a community where this idea called leadership is contested?
Yes, I would like to be part of the discussion.
You know, part of the community, just to understand what
leadership also exists to me.
Number 5 versus 3. With a device that is. Would you want to be part of a community where this idea? Please take care of your devices. Okay, Tichao Nampasiri, good afternoon. Mr. Mpasiri.
Yeah, I think his device is not connected.
All right. So we have 5 versus 3. And would you object if we build a community to interrogate the ideas Mr. Jonasi is presenting? He's not presenting anything new. He's presenting something that is as old as human existence. So not just about what he has presented, but we want to understand better about this creature called a leader. And what is a leader? What is a president? So coming back to Mr. Jonasi, have you read the Zimbabwean constitution?
Yes, I've read it.
What are the duties of a president?
Yeah, I can say is the final authority. Yeah, in terms of signing bills into law and overseeing the general management of the country.
When did you last read the constitution?
The constitution is too long, so normally you read the chapter that you are interested in that time.
No, we don't want anything else. If you have not read it, that's fine. We are not asking you to be an expert on the constitution, but just to demonstrate that sometimes we talk about the president without understanding the constitution.
Yeah, no.
The president is there to uphold the constitution. That is first duty. The highest law in the land is the constitution. The first duty of the president is to uphold the constitution.
And who is talking now?
That was Freeborn Chimenta from Sweden.
Freeborn, what section is that of the constitution?
I forget which section it is, but it's I forget which section.
If you don't know, that's fine. We are not saying you must know. Okay. Mr. Ponela, good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I've just joined in. I'm not even sure where the debate is, where the stage of the debate is.
We are talking about Mr. Jonasi. He has said there's a number of things that other people find objectionable, and his past, they are using it against his free participation in debates. What he is saying, if I understand him correctly, that Zimbabwe is a divided nation. And if you say something, either you are ZANU-PF or you are MDC. So the country has now been divided into 2 distinct identities. And according to him, MDC is Chamisa, ZANU-PF is Mnangagwa. So there are 2 elephants in Zimbabwe. And therefore the space for debate has been narrowed, limited, and even intimidated out of existence. And what he's saying, Zimbabwe belongs to all the people who live in it, and that all lives matter. So that is his premise.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I think I totally agree with Mr. Jonasi. And I would want to say that I really appreciate his confidence and courage and the free spirit which he has. And I think it rhymes very well with all of us what we are fighting for democracy, the right to express yourself without being intimidated.
Hello?
I think we're boring Mr. Jonasi sleeping.
Are you speaking on his behalf or what? Are you his president now?
No, I could see him sleeping.
Mr. Jonasi, can you speak for yourself? Are you sleeping or?
I think maybe she's from the other side, which I'm not belonging, the other political party.
Ah.
All right,
okay.
let me just
let's allow Mr. Ponela to advance his thought process.
Is very correct. What is happening in Zimbabwe? Zimbabweans, we are suffering from what is called the confirmation bias. So is the disease which we have as Zimbabweans. And the chief culprits in that disease are the few Zimbabweans who are living in the diaspora. They've got such a serious confirmation bias. And on top of that, they also suffer from the Kruger-Dining effect. That I think that's the challenge which we have with most of Zimbabweans. They think that by just going outside the borders, they automatically become champions of democracy, and also all of a sudden they've become so much intelligent that anyone who has remained at home doesn't know anything. So it's very correct to say that the country is divided because of the confirmation of bias. It doesn't matter what good is being done by ZANU-PF or what good is being done by MDC. The moment that someone portrays you to be an MDC or a ZANU-PF person, the person has got a standing position already, has got a conviction to say whatever this person does, no matter how good it is, it's wrong. So this is a psychological position which all Zimbabweans have. We are more or less like football fans. When the referee is saying it's an offside, as long as it is not against your team, it's an offside. But when it is said it's an offside against your team, you say the referee is biased. That's the kind of things which we have. We have got pseudo-democracy champions in Zimbabwe. People who purport to be champion democrats, yet they know nothing. So it's very correct to a certain extent to say they are divided. They are divided simply because of this psychological effect of confirmation bias. It's a disease which we need to make sure that all of us collectively, we need to end this. And it's simply done by the people who are actually causing all these things are basically social media addicts. Very few people in Zimbabwe who sit on social media. If you look at it, Zimbabwe now is leading in terms of spreading falsehoods, fake news and everything on social media. I don't think there is any other country which has got people who are good at gossiping and spreading social media than Zimbabwe. And if you look at the kind of falsehoods, all of them, they confirm the effect of division, MDC or ZANU-PF. If someone comes on television and says anything about ZANU-PF, people take a position. If someone says about MDC, people take a position. People don't want to Jonasi today because Jonasi has actually shifted his argument now. Is sort of leaning towards the ZANU-PF, and all of a sudden he has become a bad person. But when he was actually attacking ZANU-PF on the other side, he was a very good person. So we should have what is called scout mind to say from what Jonasi is saying, he might be right, he might be wrong, and that's how we are supposed to be thinking as human beings. Because there is no anything which will be said totally wrong from an argument. There is always a positive outcome from every situation. So just as much as people would not want what Jonasi is saying, but to a certain extent is right. So let's take what is right from what Jonasi is saying and see whether it can be helpful. Those are my few contributions.
No, thank you very much. And Mr. Jonasi, any response to that, to what Mr. Ponela has observed?
I'm so glad that he was supporting my assertions. I was expecting him to say I need a doctor for mental checkup, because the Chamisa church choir members, they would call you Prophet Mulungwe, psychiatric patient, because you are not talking the Chamisa language. So one day Zimbabweans are going to realize that the problems in Zimbabwe, the chief culprit is ordinary people. Ordinary people who have agreed to freeze their minds so that ZANU-PF thinks on their behalf, MDC would think on their behalf. Look on social media, how when someone says something against Chamisa, everyone is going to insult you. But, I mean, Chamisa is nothing in Zimbabwe. Chamisa is something because of us. ED is something because of us. These leaders, for them to be best leaders, they need our support. Otherwise, as Zimbabweans, we think that it's our leaders first, then we are second. We must be first, they must be second. Leaders must be made by us. But Zimbabweans think that ED is the God, Chamisa is the God. To me, that's a wrong thinking.
So we have this issue. Mr. Smith, do you want to make a contribution? Okay, let me put you on the speaker. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got a very, very big problem.
Is gone. Okay. So here we are, Chimedza. You wanted to say something?
Yes, Mr. Moore. First, I didn't greet everybody on the panel. Sorry, I just jumped in there. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Right. For me, yes, leadership is a quality situation. You know, it's qualities. These are qualities in leadership. Leadership can be found within a family. Leadership can be found in a classroom environment.
But there's a point that Mr. Ponela raised, that the people in the diaspora are a problem to democracy. They are a threat to Zimbabwean democracy. They are the biggest element of dividing people. Sometimes with fake news, sometimes trying to substitute the people in Zimbabwe. So what is your take on that?
If the voices of Zimbabwean people were not being squashed, that people could actually have this conversation on the streets, people could reach to a national consensus. But because people cannot actually communicate freely, that is why you find that we are on this platform and most of us are actually in diaspora and not in Zimbabwe communicating as we're supposed to be, talking to our issues.
I'm talking to Chimedza, not to people. Yes. You as an individual, what is your take on what positive role are you playing to bring Zimbabweans together, which is Mr. Jonasi's challenge, that how can people who have traveled so far remain as tribalists, remain as segregationists, remain pretending that they are superior, they know better? Is that correct, Mr. Ponela? Is that what you have been saying?
No, it's yeah. What I've said is you are very correct to say the problem is when I'm referring to Kruger-Dunning effect. I think it's exactly what I'm talking about, where people actually think that they know it, they know nothing. So this is the problem which we have with most of the people in the diaspora. Because if you ask them to say, why do you think that I'm in Zimbabwe and I don't know, they said, no, Zimbabwe is not developed. I don't know whoever has given them that perception that whoever has remained at home is down. Because some of the people we even know them, that even if they were here, under normal circumstances, they wouldn't even be doing anything. Because even at the school, they were not even good. So all of a sudden now that they've just crossed the borders, all of a sudden they become clever simply because they are living in a town where they get water and every now and again. So this is the problem which we have with most of the people in the diaspora. Then in terms of leadership, we all know that a leader should have a vision. And whenever the vision becomes bigger than the leader, it's either you get people to help you or abandon the vision. So basically, that's what we need to look at our leaders as we go, and say also to say whenever a vision has got only two things, either it grows or it dies. So basically, so we needed to be seeing ourselves to say where are we actually getting it wrong. And the one thing people should know is like there's no change which comes without pain. So people should not simply say we have experienced things which we never had pain to, like during the time of Mugabe. When there was a shortage of money, Mugabe would simply say print money, and the money would be printed. And the people were actually living in that comfort. To say whenever there is no money, people would print money. And we ended up having wheelbarrows of money.
Mr. Ponela, do you see what I'm reading? Hans Ponela Penga, Famba Ponela. What is that is being said? Should Ponela not have a right to express himself?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was actually saying, to say most of the people in the diaspora, they suffer from what is called Kruger-Dunning effect. They believe that you know yet you know nothing. That's the problem with people in the diaspora. A lot of them, the majority of them, except the few intellectuals who are there, the majority of the people on social media are not the intellectuals, for information. Very few people in the diaspora intellectuals who come on social media. The majority of them, the people who know nothing are the ones who make a lot of noise on the social media.
Then Muskawan says, Mawere, you are a diasporian. People are more free when they have freedom. But we have Mr. Ponela in Zimbabwe agreeing with Mr. Jonasi.
Who doesn't have freedom? We have got freedom here. I'm talking from Zimbabwe. We've got freedom. I don't know what type of freedom these people want. Because they are telling us that we don't have freedom. We are in diaspora. We've got the freedom. I don't know what they're talking about. They have to tell us what freedom they want us to be having. We are happy with what we are having here.
But
despite the fact of economic confused.
Mr. Ponela, don't you think that there is a cause for us to invest in understanding of what freedom is, what leadership is, so that we develop a common understanding?
Yeah, we need to do that, but the issue is like we should not rely on the Me Too effect. The chaotic mentality which most of Africans have. To say if you see someone selling tomatoes and the tomatoes are being bought, then the next morning you also want to sell tomatoes. That is the chaotic mentality. We should move away from this. Let's be original and actually say what is good for us as Zimbabweans. Not to say that in Britain they're doing this.
Narua Musi, Ponela, you are a breath of fresh air. And do you know what fresh air, Mr. Chuai, is?
I assume so. But may I come in? There is something that I'm picking, or maybe it's only me who is picking that. What Mr. Ponela is saying and what Mr. Jonasi had said, when I looked at it myself, I looked at the upbringing factor, how people are brought up in families. You see, when I grew up, the time that I grew up, anything that happens in our home, it must remain within our family. But now there are people who, when they were brought up, they were free to say anything. So the issue today, or the issue that we are discussing, I believe we shouldn't overlook the upbringing factor. And when you see, from my observation, why people become ZANU-PF extremists, MDC extremists, and social media extremists, is simply because of how they were brought up.
No, and Mr. Chuai, now that you are brought up, you are an adult, you are in the diaspora.
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that the voices in the diaspora are coherent?
They are not. But now I would want Mr. Ponela.
Before you go further, Janet,
yes,
you are the only woman here by default. Why do you think you stayed in the diaspora? You are now in Zimbabwe. What is your observation? We have the only female person, but is not able to speak. And free
I had not finished, Mr. Mawere.
I just wanted to, because we wanted to make the point of the diaspora that they are brought up in Zimbabwe. We assume they are from their upbringing. The difficulty we have is now the tolerance, the level of maturity, balance, and the organization structure is what both Jonasi and Mr. Ponela are saying. That me included, they are not making an exception. They are saying people in the diaspora, they are speaking over us. We are leaving the problems or the opportunities. But can you not allow us to be the voice of our own circumstances so that we hear them? I'm not sure whether that's correct, Mr. Ponela and Mr. Jonas.
You are very correct, Mr. Mawere. You are simply, that's very correct to say we are the people actually in the forefront. And these people are actually speaking on our behalf. That's the same thing. Yeah. Why can't they let us as people actually in the forefront to speak on our own behalf?
So if they don't like a government officer, if there's corruption, they feel it directly because the resources are diverted from what they should be deployed for, and they feel it. But they discover that they no longer have a voice even to decide what kind of government they want. We are tweeting every day, bombarding in WhatsApp groups, so too much clutter in the groups. But there's no clarity as to what should be done. That's the point I wanted to make, Chimedza, that we have to introspect and hear what Jonas is saying, that if you tweet something, if Mr. Ponela decides to differ, he's called ZANU-PF Project, and he doesn't even know who ZANU-PF is. He's just carrying on with his life. But all of a sudden, he has to spend time defending who he is.
Mr. Mawere.
Yeah. And my panel says, Mr. Ponela, what is freedom to you? Which is the conversation that we wanted to invite Janet to. You know, Mr. Ponela, there is a C to C. Do you know anything about C to C?
I've heard about it, and I've been trying to join that. It seems no one has really given me full information about it. But I've come across some.
Wellington and Janet are in Zimbabwe. And they will contact you. But essentially is to convert connections like this into a community where voices can be structured and ordered so that we don't speak at each other. We speak to each other. Like what you are saying, Jonasi is saying. He's saying Chamisa is arrogant as a statement of fact. And we are going to ask him on another show, what made you conclude that Chamisa is arrogant? But that's
yeah, I think you can share my number with the people responsible so that they can get in touch with me. Mr. Mawere got my number.
I got Mr. Ponela's number. You know Zoneful Wellington? Hello? Wellington, Janet, they are both not attending, but that's fine.
No, we are actually attending, but I think our internet connection down here is quite terrible. But we are only hearing the conversation in bits and pieces. But I mentioned
that's Mr. Zoneful.
There's a discussion.
Yeah, okay, well, Johnny, I'll give you the numbers, but the essential part of the conversation is let us, if people from diaspora are speaking on your behalf, what is stopping you from speaking for yourself? I'm not saying that. I'm saying the problem is that the conversations are cluttered, there's crisis after crisis, and what Mr. Ponela is saying, can't you give us space to find each other? We are in Zimbabwe. There is no MDC water, there is no MDC electricity, there is no MDC government or ZANU-PF government. We are in the same country, in the same shithole. Can't we dig ourselves out of it? Can't we swim out of it? That's all I hear Mr. Ponela is saying. He's not fighting with anybody. He is saying we are in it. So can you help us get out of it? If there's any help, but don't tell me how suffering is when I'm already in the suffering. Don't tell me what freedom is when I'm already inside Zimbabwe. And I matter because I'm here to say something about it without favor or prejudice. So I am also listening to say, can we organize ourselves to have that voice so that we don't talk and we don't have any order or structure. The government itself is structure, is order. So, Leon, you are listening. Maybe you can contribute. You are in the diaspora. Leon, can you hear us? It's on mute. Okay. All right. So Mr. Ponela and Chimedza, are you willing to be part of this conversation of converting our connections to meet at an event called a broadcast when we should be talking beyond broadcast?
Yeah, certainly, I would want to be part of it. And Mr. Mawere, if you can allow me to say one thing, which I think is very important, to say this what Jonasi has just talked about is what is causing a lot of problems in Zimbabwe, in the sense that political parties actually consider supporters as pieces of furniture, like assets. Yet in essence, no political party owns a human being. Human being supporters are more or less like funds. It's a matter of just having common interests, and the interests change each and every time. So there is no one who is supposed to die for anyone in politics. So, but with this kind of convention bias, which Jonasi is just referred to, you'd find out that there are people who simply say, "I will die for Chamisa." You see, and then you just wonder, what kind of life is this? Tomorrow the goal shifts, and then there's someone else, and then where do you stand? So we need to be knowing as supporters that we are not pieces of furniture like an asset or whatever. We are just funds, like a food for funds. When our interest changes, we shift as we go. So there's no permanent home as a political party supporter. Because the reason why you support a political party is very simple. It's because of the interest which you have as an individual. But when your interest changes, then you also have to change the political party. So we should not have this whole thing to say Muno ZANU, Muno MDC. No, we are Zimbabweans. We agree to differ and agree on certain circumstances. When the politics is over, when the election and the campaign is over, politics in Zimbabwe should have seasons. We have got the people who are still in the campaigning mood right from the time before the election. The elections are done, and we are almost moving to another election. People are still campaigning. I don't know when are they going to have time for development. Zimbabweans, we should learn to lose with honor. The problem with the Zimbabwean politics is like people get into politics without an exit strategy. Whenever you're doing it, Mr. Mawere, you're a renowned businessman, you know, whenever you get into a deal, you should have an exit strategy. To say, when you are no longer interested to carry on in a company, how do you move out of the company? The same applies in life, even in marriage. Anyway, whatever you do as an individual, you should have an exit strategy. If you get into politics without an exit strategy, it's a problem. Because if the results come the other way around, you are stranded. You start causing problems. We should learn to lose with honor and win with honor. That's my contribution.
Okay, no, thank you. I think that's a valuable contribution. We have Mr. Leon in the UK. Can you come in? Leon? Leon, again, there's a problem, and Chimedza, again, back to you. Then we go to round up now, and there are people who disagree with Mr. Ponela, but that's what life is all about. Free expression, disagreement without being disagreeable, without calling anyone names. Isn't it wonderful just to decide to disagree? And we can learn from that. And Chimedza, would you want to be part of this so that we have structured conversations and then we can engage Mr. Tinashe not as an enemy, but as a person who has observed tendencies, people, and has come up with his own observations?
Yes, I would like to be part of this community, part of this discussion to, charter a way forward for us as a people. I understand where my brother in Zimbabwe is coming from, but you see, that's the thing as well. Like to say, I suffered from the same thing when I was in Zimbabwe. I also have family in Zimbabwe. I'm in diaspora, yes, but doesn't mean I'm an island and I'm disconnected. I have good family and I have good friends that I communicate with via this here social media, right? And we all have different opinions. Some of them I share. We have similar ideas, similar views. Some I disagree with. But as to say the situation in Zimbabwe, we all understand it. We all go through it. And the mantra is, right? So when you I know you didn't actually generalize, and then you said, but it's most of diaspora would think that you know it all. I just believe with even though you find with I'm in Sweden, right? I have had more liberty to speak to the situation of Zimbabwe than I have had when I was in Zimbabwe. You see what I'm saying? And what I find is that I don't have the freedom in Zimbabwe to actually criticize the government the way that I want to criticize the government. The dissent is evident because the people who are speaking out against the government and who are saying things that I most likely would have been saying if I was on the ground, I find that they are in prison or being tortured or being persecuted. Right? Not that I am MDC, I've never voted, I was born in 1981. Right? I belong to no political organization. I am a product of ZANU-PF at the end of the day. Also, but I am in diaspora and I've been in diaspora now almost 20 years. Right? I do go home. When I do go home, I find things are always in a worse shape than I left them. Nakaba Road, you take my potholes. When I go back, 25 potholes. Right? The situation is always deteriorating in Zimbabwe. Now, me personally, I wouldn't care who is running that country as long as they were competent enough to make the necessary reforms, to make the necessary changes, to give me the necessary opportunities that I feel I deserve, that I feel I was promised through the education system that I went through, right? I was not trained for other things, for this and that and that. There are certain things that you were groomed for. As a child, what you want to be when you grow up, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. And some teachers would be confident enough to say you can also be a president. You see what I'm saying? But I would say I want to be like my father. I want to be a pilot.
So do you want to be part of this community where we can have structured conversation?
Yes, sir. I would like to be a part of this conversation where we can charter a way forward for ourselves. Yes.
Okay. So let's hear from Leon in the UK. Leon.
Yeah, I think a lot of people here become politicians when they come abroad, which is true. But even those who are back home and those who've studied politics are failing to realize that politics, Zimbabwean politics is not.
Maybe Leon, just introduce yourself. We wanted to establish the people who are willing to be part of the change that they want to see. If you are one of them, fine. because we can talk about, we are not here to criticize anybody. We are saying, as we are sitting here, we are already showing that we are one and we are listening to each other, but we can do it in a structured manner.
If you want change, go. If you want change, why stay in the UK? Go to Zimbabwe and do that change. Be that change. Some people are just telling people. Some people.
So but do you want to be part of this virtual community that we are trying to build, so that we can reduce the divisions based on ignorance and based on illiteracy?
I can do that on the education side, because a lot of people need educated. It doesn't matter how many drivers you change, it won't change the system of the truck driver. So if you change the leaders and you don't know the system, a new leader will just have to operate according to the system, or they will fail. So a lot of people are talking of replacing this, replacing that, but do you actually know how the system works?
So, so that Mr. Laxon has paid his 500 rand per year to be part of this community. Is $30 too much for you?
Yeah, even 1,000 is not too much. But what we need to know is, what are we doing with it, Mr. Mawere? What's written down there?
I'm saying
what are we trying to achieve?
Right now, let's us agree to be colonialists. Without asking, when I become a settler, what am I going to get? Because you are coming to a country where you have never been. So why don't you just walk with others rather than say, what are we going to do? Already we are doing something here. And you came here because we are here. But if we were not here, how would we hear your voice?
So while we are here, did we agree anything?
We have agreed.
One of the people who was talking there was calling Chamisa a lady. We want to include ladies as well. It means if you're saying Chamisa is a lady, you are trying to say ladies cannot lead the country?
Who said Chamisa is a lady?
So we need to include everyone. We need everyone.
No, I'm saying is who said Chamisa is a lady?
If you listen to it again, go and listen again to this whole program. I was watching it while I was working here.
Okay. So Mr.
Jonas, so when you do that, you're dividing already. You're dividing people.
No, Jonasi, did you say Chamisa Mukazi?
Yeah, I said so.
Okay. No, I didn't hear that. Okay, go ahead.
So
why would you call somebody a woman?
There's nothing wrong being called a woman, because women can also be better than men sometimes.
Not sometimes.
No, sometimes.
I'm not counting. But women are human beings like you and me. And
this is exactly what I'm saying.
Believe in the equality of people. Why do we have to diminish somebody? God-given right, and then we end up calling him a woman. Mr. Jonas, is that correct?
That's my point.
I think
I would appreciate that people sometimes they become extra sensitive. We literally speak, we associate strength in Africa to a man and weakness to a woman. Not meaning that a woman can't be a leader, but it's figuratively speaking.
Jonasi, you say Chamisa is a woman. Is he a woman?
I won't go further to his sexuality but let me just say it was not correct.
So let's apologize and withdraw the statement. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's not good for me to touch on someone. It's a gay orientation and stuff.
Yeah, but let's agree without calling each other names and then call the others who call other people names bad people when we are the practitioners of the same hatred.
I think if we treat each other with dignity and respect, we also give a good picture about who we are as Zimbabweans. I suppose that is what shows also in our politics, where intolerance of diversity of the diversity of views is abound. People just do not agree. There's nothing wrong with people not agreeing or agreeing to disagree. It's normal, but it's the dignity and way. It's the dignified way in which we conduct ourselves as we disagree.
So,
Which
Even
matters.
okay, even
so Leon,
by saying
having disposed of that, do you have any objection in us coming together for a purpose of just knowing each other?
is that directed to me?
Yeah.
Oh no. But already there is another caller there who's another contributor who said most of the people abroad are not academics. Let's not. That's part of you're dividing.
So
people
let's
where
go
they
back,
say-
Mr. Ponela. Have you said that?
No, I think you have misquoted me. I said most of the people who come on social media are not the Zimbabwean intellectuals who are in the diaspora, because most of the intellectuals are busy doing some professional work. Those people who have
So I'm not.
nothing
So
to show.
I'm not by coming here to Miss Mawere. Are you alienating me, saying I'm not an academic? Then
No, we are talking about a situation, my brother. I think you need to consider the context at which we discussed this whole thing. We're
this is
referring to
what
the issue
divides
of
people.
Zimbabweans. Yeah,
But
we're
looking
talking
down upon
about the
people
contribution bias.
in the diaspora is dangerous, Mr.
Because,
Bonella. It's not
no,
fair.
let me just hang on. Let me give you an example. There is no way there's no way where you can get someone who is a professional who can actually go and Photoshop a video in DRC or somewhere else in another country and spend all the time just to try to bit that video so that it looks like Zimbabwe. And then you start spreading that thing and say it's happening in Dema. I mean, where would you get that time to do such a stupid thing?
Do you know how many minutes it takes to do that?
The point is
What
that by generalizing, we are already getting into that corner.
Yes.
No, yeah, of course, but do you agree that
it's dangerous to say that?
No, just listen. Do you agree that do you agree that most of the problems which we have in terms of the international relationships with the general perception about the perception, the perception most of the people about Zimbabwe, 90% of the issues is to do with people who are in the diaspora. We actually choose.
I'm saying, Mr. Ponela, let's get to know each other, because the moment we generalize,
echoes there. I think the one we need to.
That's when you got two devices on.
Myself?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any device here.
Yeah. No, not you. Yeah. Not Mr. Ponela. Chiwai has got two devices. Hello? No, he's got two devices.
Yeah, can you please mute one of your devices or mute everything?
Yeah, so that I've muted now. That's why it's okay now.
Mr. Mawere.
All right.
Mr. Mawere.
I'm hearing you. I'm listening. I'm listening.
We still have got that problem.
I'll give you an analogy, right?
No, it's Mr. Chiwai who removes the mute. Just keep the mute there because there are two devices. All right. Yeah, now we're okay. Oh no, he's still listening
to himself via Bluetooth of the car. So that's why we're getting this feedback.
Yeah. Okay, just mute Mr. Lakson, Mr. Chiwai. So my Daniel says, Waponela mungango apologize here.
Apologize in terms of what? Because I don't know what they want me to apologize about.
Let me explain to you why you must apologize, Mr. Ponera. It's not fair. I've heard it many times that Zimbabweans at home tend to look down upon those in the diaspora, particularly those in the UK. That is why I guess they get it from former President Mugabe when he used to call people in the UK BBC or British bum cleaners, or this assumption that everyone that is in the UK is either a care worker or a nurse, and then the assumption that anyone in South Africa is either a maid or a gardener or something. That is very dangerous. Stop generalizing people. Have you done a study to realize how many people go on social media, and have you seen their CVs? And what constitutes education, Mr. Ponela? Going to school sometimes is not education or getting an education. Or being educated does not mean that someone having degrees does not mean someone is educated. In Zimbabwe, actually, I see a lot of people with degrees but who are uneducated.
Yes.
So it's very unfortunate. You have to apologize for saying that, because it's not true. It polarizes ideas, and it gives an impression that you look down upon people.
No, I will apologize if you are taking it that way. But my major concern is, like, I've happened to mingle a lot with people in the diaspora, and the way they look at people from home. The other time I was actually in London, and the people were expecting me probably to be, I don't know, because every time when I got there, there was that kind of thing to say, when I was in Zimbabwe, they were expecting me probably to sleep in the street or somewhere like that. So when I was talking to these guys to say, guys, what do you think about Zimbabwe? They said, no, you guys, you are suffering. Then they started telling me about the very petty issues in terms of what they think is very important to them. But then all of a sudden, then I realized when you go on social media and put up a comment, and the way they react to the comment, there is a tendency, actually, as you said, to say we all know that if a comment is put on social media, you can easily tell where is this person coming from. You can actually tell from a comment in it also. You can actually tell this one is from South Africa, this one is from UK.
All right. I mean, the point they are making is that unless you have done a survey, the people you met may just be unrepresentative of the general community in the diaspora. So let us talk to the people. If you know somebody has got that view, let's say talk to that person, talk to the issues that they were raising, because not all people they think alike.
My apologies if people have taken this to say I mean everyone, but I want to give you a very good example of what I've experienced with some guys in the diaspora. I went to Dubai to pitch for a business competition, and in that there were Zimbabweans, and most of the Zimbabweans who were there were not actually from home. They were actually from diaspora, and the people who were actually shooting down my idea on the basis of what is happening at home were actually Zimbabweans. They were actually testifying that in Zimbabwe is not an area where someone can actually go and do business. They were so very eloquent, actually, and giving testimonies to say, don't ever put your money in Zimbabwe. You see? So
I'm saying is that if you come to me, and I would tell you that where there is no rule of law, everybody is not safe. And if you don't take cognizance of that, it's not because I'm in the diaspora, but this is a general law informed by civilization, that if we don't upgrade and be specific at whatever we are talking about, then we end up grouping people and end up creating a new identity of a person born in Zimbabwe, left Zimbabwe, and say they are uneducated, they don't know what they are doing. We are no longer looking at principles, but at a class of people where you become condemned by choice to leave
It's
Zimbabwe.
actually tribalism, Mr. Ponela, to speak the way you have done about Zimbabweans. Because once you identify a person and you say whatever they are saying is either right or wrong because of who they are, it's not important. That's tribalism. That's exclusion. You're already excluding even their contribution, because either you look down upon them or they are excluding your contribution because they are looking down upon you. But I understand your experiences as you explained them. I get it, but still, I think we need to move from that culture where we look down upon other people because they have certain views. It's not right.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But what really pained me is like on that incident, you know, there was a white guy who actually came and said, William, for the sake that you are coming from Zimbabwe, and all these people have told me all these stories. That's the reason why I'm going to give you the money to do this thing. You see? But, you know...
But Mr. Ponela, those are the experiences we need in that community so that we can make them specific to the individuals, that this is a story, that's what happened, that's what the Bible is. It doesn't talk about all Jews are bad.
No, I totally agree with you, but there is always two sides of a coin, you see. I totally agree. But once again, I would want to apologize for my comment if it portrays a picture of segregating or being
there are people who are in the diaspora working hard for their families, for themselves, only to be here somebody saying they behave like this when they don't have anything to do with this. There are people who just left Zimbabwe and they have not done anything wrong. But let us use language that brings us together. Whether you are there, this technology allows us to be on the same platform. It will
I totally agree.
If we then become divided and say this group is diaspora, this group is domestic. When the people in the diaspora are also contributing to funding the issues that are at home, they are not immune from the events in Zimbabwe. And their concern is valid at a personal level. There are people facing difficult challenges. They get to hear about it. They get emails. They get WhatsApp. I just received just one person. I need a job. I'm in Zimbabwe. I don't know where to go. But the person is in Zimbabwe. Some people are saying Zimbabwe is okay. Some people think Zimbabwe there is freedom. Some people think there is everything because there are pockets within Zimbabwe where people see the bright light. They climb on the rough side of the mountain, others on the smooth side. But it's all Zimbabwean, but the personal circumstances are different. So how do we bring people together to deal with what kind of government do you want for everybody? It cannot be acceptable.
I can tell you there, Mr. Mawere. What needs done is educate people. We are all like blindfolded people. Elephant. You touch an elephant's tail. Oh, I know now. I know what ZANU-PF is. ZANU-PF is an elephant, and people are going there blindfolded. He who touches, they're this. Let people learn the system first. Kuti knows ZANU-PF before you start replacing it. You need to learn how the system is working. Study. Do a study. Educate people with university. Make a module about how ZANU-PF. You can't replace a system you don't know. Many people here, if you ask them what is ZANU-PF, they don't even know what ZANU-PF is. Someone touches the body of an elephant, thinks an elephant is a wall. Someone touches the tail. Oh, I think the elephant is a broom.
I'm thinking that, Leon, let's deal with the identity and discover what ZANU-PF is not. I think somebody was saying, what is C to C? What do I benefit? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about things that build, because I've never seen Mr. ZANU-PF myself. or Ms. ZANU-PF.
Exactly.
What I do know is that they are human beings like me. Ponela could be a member. You could be a member. But it doesn't make you ZANU-PF.
Exactly.
You could
The
be in
system.
Zimbabwe. It doesn't make you what other people want. These generalizations, we can't then say you are wrong when you are saying ZANU-PF is a system. What system is that? I don't know, Mr. Ponele in Zimbabwe. I've never seen that system called ZANU-PF. What I know is they are members of ZANU-PF.
Exactly. I've always asked people to say, what is ZANU-PF? Because it's like, people have got obsession about just saying ZANU-PF. They don't even understand that ZANU-PF, without people, there's no ZANU-PF. So it's as the young man says there, we really need to understand what the system is. We need to know what ZANU-PF is before we start thinking of doing all sorts of other things which we are talking about. So I think, as you said, identity and also understanding how the system works, it matters most.
So I think on that score, let's we can come to the end, and we just give final comments about what we're talking about. Mr. Jonas, we started with you. It was your show. We disrupted it, and you may have felt we ambushed you, and it's sometimes not good. Have we lived up to your expectations to democratize the conversation so that it doesn't appear as if you are the only one?
Should I just conclude, or you want a comment to a particular point?
No, to that point specifically, you came here with different expectations, and all of a sudden we ended up with a bigger show than what we had started with.
For me, I'm very glad that Zimbabweans, we are beginning to show political maturity, whether only political or it's also social and economical maturity. Maturity that we are engaging. It's my happiness that we can engage with. We are not fighting here. Our ideas or our opinions are fighting, but we are not personalizing the discussion. I think that's the way forward for our country. We need to sit down people of different opinions and ideas so that at the end of the day, we agree that we are not enemies. I think that's the most important stage that we need to have conversations, to argue, to discuss, and still shake hands in conclusions. So me, I think this platform and this discussion is hugely successful because Zimbabweans from different countries, locations, and of opinions, different political parties, beliefs, but we are engaging each other peacefully. To me, this is the way forward.
And Chimedza, your concluding remarks?
It's just to say thank you to everyone for being here. And I would like to be a part of what you are saying. C2C definitely is the way forward. If we had freedoms like this, because freedom is not just one thing, but freedoms like this to speak to our issues in Zimbabwe, I think would be in a better place. So rather than perhaps trying to change the current system, is to perhaps work within what we know constitutionally already belongs to us. So constitutionalism perhaps should be the agenda of the day, where even the people that we are addressing, the people who seem to be infringing on our rights, also become constitutional, right? So at least we can have the space to speak to the problem. That's where I think perhaps focus should be on that freedom to be able to speak to the problem without being persecuted, without having fear running down your spine, without thinking that, you know, where am I going to spend the night if I air my views, right? So when Mr. Jonasi is saying, yes, this is a sign of political maturity, but it's because there is a space that has been created where we do not fear to air out these views. So we can then begin to address the issues. You see what I'm saying? So this is where perhaps diaspora comes in, is to say we are pushing the envelope on these discussions, rather than to say we are fearful of confronting these issues. Because we in diaspora, perhaps, we do not fear retaliation the same way that the person in Zimbabwe might do. As we can see examples by people like Hope Chingono or Job Sikala, just to mention a few, right? So this is where I'm coming from, is to say the conversation needs to be had. The conversation needs to occur. And it is the citizens from bottoms up that the solutions will come, not from top down. The problem is at the top. The solutions are coming from the bottom. So when the space is there for us here, the populace, the masses, the majority, to talk to our own issues, we can come up with the solutions to our own problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please put your number so that Wellington and Janet can get hold of you. Because remember, last time we didn't have your number. And then, Leon, any final remarks?
The final remarks are like this. I'll just say to me, even in the Bible, when God took the Israelites to Canaan or whatever, they had to survey, go right round to see. Many people think ruling the country is just going there to White House. You replace it. It's bigger than that. All I'm saying to people now is, if you don't know the system, I could be working for the system. You could be working. All people here could be working for the system. So you're busy preaching to people who are working against you. So know the system first. That's all my point. I'm not a politician. I'm not.
Okay, I'm saying for this, before you know, do you want to be like Chimedza? Do you want to be part of this structured conversation before we go into the Zimbabwean matter to know each other, to deal with this demon called constitutionalism, rule of law? What Chimedza is talking about, that without that, the system is just people. But the attitudes are determined by culture, by systems, even by what Jonasi has done to come here, expose himself sometimes to attacks that are necessary just for holding his views. There are many people who are quiet, but they're not Democrats. But there are many people who step forward to be counted and say, I would rather stand on my feet than on my knees waiting for somebody to be in government. So if
the system is not people, people are not the system.
No, I'm saying we can argue that later, but to me, we are the people. We are the thinking people. That's what Jonasi is saying. That's what Ponella was saying. That's what Wellington was saying. That we, the people, there is no government in the animal kingdom. There's no system. We put system to serve us, not to have system to oppress us.
Mr. Mawere, it doesn't matter how much you think. As long as you are not in the exam room, you may think and you will not get the person in the exam room, my distinctions.
But I'm asking you a simple question, but you're not answering.
No.
I'm saying, do you want to be part of a system, of an organized human grouping to deal with some of these, where you register those things that you think the system is? Educate us, but not on this platform.
So joining a system that is abroad, where is the system? Okay, part of this, I can join this group, right? But where are we?
I'm saying they be part of the change than talk about the change.
How do you change if you're not? How do I change after having a shower?
I don't know.
Maybe room with the clothes I want to wear.
Let me help you, Mr. Mawere. Maybe he's not getting your point. What Mr. Mawere is saying is that just wait easy. Would you want to be part to meet with like-minded individuals in a community Like just now, we're connected here on StreamYard, and we're having a conversation together, isn't it? But can you imagine if we have an opportunity like this more often, and where we share our experiences, various experiences? You sit in the diaspora. The Zimbabwean diaspora is huge. There are people at home like Mr. Ponela, or like myself. I'm in Harare. There are people in the UK, there are people in Australia, there are people in South Africa, like Mr. Mawere and Jonasi. Now, can you imagine meeting virtually? Because now things don't have to be location dependent anymore. Sharing each other's experiences so that we add value to each other. First and foremost, as individuals, and of course, as Zimbabweans. It does not mean that when one changes their location and move into the diaspora, they've abdicated their responsibilities as a Zimbabwean or their nationality as a Zimbabwean. You remain a Zimbabwean, you remain with vested interests in Zimbabwe. You've got family in Zimbabwe, you remit a lot of money to that family in Zimbabwe, and you contribute even ideas. Would you want to be part of a community of like-minded people who share, who move beyond just virtual connections to create a community? That is what
I'm already like coming here. I'm showing you I am part of it, but it's not enough.
No, I'm saying is nobody's saying it's enough. What we are saying, we start somewhere. To like now, how did you know about the show? We have to be more organized and have a calendar where Leon can share his ideas on what this system is all about. We all don't have the same understanding that you have.
By saying it's a system, I didn't say I know the system.
No,
I don't know the system.
No, I'm saying is you can say that I don't know. Let's get the people who are there to tell us how decisions are made.
Thank you.
And they will tell us because they are there. And we know where the problem is. And for us to focus on the president, when the mayor is not doing his job, when the councillor is not doing his job,
thank you.
When the minister is not doing his job, when one is fired, we support the fired one.
That was my point.
Yeah, so we are together on that. Wildfire, any final remarks?
I'll just say, look, it's always good to have constructive conversations, as much as we don't have the same views, the same ideas, but those different ideas are the ones that have led us to be where we are today. So let's become part of this community so that we can have a contestation of ideas, and each and every idea is welcome. And by so doing, we get to build the kind of community that we all want. Thank you. All right. Yeah, that's my take.
So I think anyone else who has a point or
I have concluding remarks. I would like to say that I think it's important that to note that the Constitution guarantees us freedom, various freedoms, which means it's the power for us to act, speak, or think as we want as individuals. However, the onus is on us as individuals to respect that right. So in our conduct, anyway, be it in family, in the workplace, or even on social media, we need to engage like human beings in a civil manner, where we respect each other's ideas, where we give each other an opportunity to be heard and teach each other with dignity and respect. It's very, very important, because when we understand the freedoms that everyone is entitled to as a birthright or by virtue of being a citizen, we will not exercise intolerance to each other. Therefore, even all the problems that we experience, be they economic, social, or political, we'll be able to resolve them and still be friends afterwards.
Thank you very much. Finally, Joshua says, it starts from the top. No need to have good mayor with a rotten president. And all I can say, good luck, Joshua. A president plays his own part. the Pope may be a bad person. It doesn't make the priest a bad person. And the cardinal may be a bad cardinal, but it doesn't make the bishop a bad person. The general may be a bad person. It doesn't make the soldier a bad person. So let us take stock that we are all human beings in a chain where we are supposed to deliver our own promise as individuals, not as a group. No president can be the aggregate of others. We have heard today, even Jonasi apologized. It takes a man to apologize for things that he has said. He can withdraw it. We have heard Mr. Ponela also say the same thing. That if you take it the way you are now explaining to me, I got ears, I've heard what you're saying. I am prepared to withdraw what I've said on that condition, that what I said was not the spirit in which it was conveyed. So if we can get that from this platform, for people to change their perspectives, their paradigms, their insights, and be able to come to a common place where we can say we don't know what we don't know. I don't know what the diaspora is. I cannot speak on behalf of the diaspora. I cannot condemn. Who am I to condemn them? I cannot speak of all the members of ZANU-PF and as if they come from one womb. I cannot speak on behalf of all the MDC members as if they come from one womb. Let me be cautious in what I say, because the tongue is what divides us most of the time. Imagine the tongue was withdrawn. How many of us would smile at each other thinking we like each other? How many use the tongue to divide and to make people angry? And why do we need to go that far? If we can be in a community where a person can look in the mirror and withdraw the statements and learn. So if we can all learn, and that's what we are saying, let's be more organized so that we have collective restraint, and when something is said wrongly, we quickly come to expose it and deal with it as it happens, so that we don't ignore it. And it takes the people courage to withdraw, to rephrase, and to take the next day as a next day, not to take grudges on anyone. What I mean for a country to benefit stability and prosperity, example must be set from the top. We must set the ground, Joshua, from the bottom, because we are the sovereigns. There are more people in a pyramid who are at the bottom of the pyramid than at the top of it. And we need to be able to rise above that and know that no one can sit on top of other people unless you agree to be in the bottom. But who would want to be in the bottom when I can be up? So no president can be above the people who make him president. They can't whip everybody. They can't control minds. The human mind is the most deceptive mind. You can stay with someone for 60 years, but never know what they're thinking. So never mind about what the person who wants to control wants to do. Worry about you. There are many people in the diaspora who cannot be controlled, who are there to organize, not agonize, to show the lead. What are we doing? Spending time substituting each other, confusing each other about things that we don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So if I'm out, I must accept that I'm out. Where can I plug in? Then I'll plug in, than for me to be the reasons why the plug exists. So I hope you have listened, and let's keep on talking. Let's keep on building the platforms that allow us to talk and change the ideas that we hold dear and the people we look up to, even if they are divisive. So thank you very much if you are watching there, and if you are interested in being part of this, just type yes, yes or no. That's all. So that we can, if you want to identify yourself, please do so. So we just give it to you to be able to provide that direction. If you found it interesting, yes or no. And if you want this to continue, how best do we continue so that we have people who are trained to conduct these conversations? And then some of us can withdraw so that we have people who can give up time to get something to live for it rather than abuse each other's time. So Tiflot says Gurundoro is interested. So let's see whether how soon we get 10 people who are interested, because sometimes we end up talking to ourselves and people are just enjoying the comedy of it. So
Well, I guess Mr. Mawere's network has failed him. I think he wanted to say, conclude. You're back. I was just going to wrap it up.
no, I was waiting for people to show their interest. Only 2 people have expressed interest. So
Okay.
that's now we have 3. Just for us to see how difficult it is for people to participate in the change they want. So we have 4. So we have 3 minutes left just to give people an opportunity to express themselves, whether they want to be part of this conversation. So we have 4. And there's no movement. So Chimeza, that tells you that human beings are difficult to predict. They don't tell you anything, but they want content. 5, Victor. All we are looking is for 10.
Out of 100 people, 10 are agents of change usually.
Yeah.
And, you know,
So
50%.
that's, you know why I say 10? Because if you get 10 Jews, they build a synagogue. But it's not easy to get 10 Zimbabweans to agree on anything without arguing about that thing. That's my generalization of the day. So we have 5 only. And the others are just waiting for us to continue talking and talking. So that's 5. Okay, so we can close there.
We are 50% there.
Now we have 6, which is 60% of the 10. So I guess you can't take a donkey and to a river and make it drink. So we have done it. Say 6. I don't know what it means, but we have now 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so I think my clock is 15 past 6. So I'll end there.